There's a moment in every child's life that feels like the world suddenly tilts. It might happen in silence, behind a closed door, or in the middle of a shouting match that echoes for years afterward. A moment when two voices that once spoke in harmony split into separate tones, and a child realizes that their home, their universe, is about to divide. They don't have the words to name the feeling, but something inside them knows that life, from this point forward, will never be the same. Divorce is often described in adult terms: custody agreements, legal documents, and financial settlements. But for a child, it's not a process. It's an earthquake. It shatters the ground beneath them, and in its wake, they must learn to live in a world that no longer fits together. What's left behind is not just two houses or two sets of rules, but two versions of reality. And the child is asked to move between them, holding both truths at once. Psychologists call this a developmental disruption. But for the child, it feels like identity itself begins to unravel. They start asking silent questions that no one around them seems able to answer. Did I do something wrong? Will they stop loving me too? The human mind, especially in its early years, craves stability.
Love, when predictable, becomes the foundation of security.
But when that foundation cracks, the child must rebuild their sense of safety piece by piece. This isn't a story about broken families. It's a story about adaptation, resilience, and the quiet battles that shape who we become. Because behind every child of divorce is a heart learning to love again after trust has been shaken, a mind negotiating two worlds, and a soul carrying memories of a home that once felt whole. Divorce doesn't just separate parents. It rewires the psychology of a child. It changes how they see love, how they trust, and how they build themselves in the aftermath of separation. When the announcement comes, whether through an argument, a quiet talk, or the sudden disappearance of one parent, the child's brain enters survival mode. Confusion becomes the air they breathe. They can't yet grasp adult reasons like, "we grew apart," or "we're better off this way." All they know is that the people who promised forever are walking away from it. In the early days, the reactions vary.
Some children cry.
Some withdraw. Others act as if nothing has happened at all. But deep inside, their sense of safety fractures. This is where psychology meets emotion. A child's attachment system, formed around trust and predictability, now sends signals of threat. Their little world feels unsafe, and that fear lingers long after the legal papers are signed. Regression is common. A 7-year-old starts wetting the bed again. A teenager suddenly becomes clingy or defiant. These aren't acts of rebellion. They're desperate attempts to regain control over a life that no longer makes sense. The mind, in trying to protect itself, begins rewriting reality. If I'm good enough, maybe they'll come back. If I don't make waves, maybe everything will return to normal. The emotional duality is unbearable. The child loves both parents, but is subtly forced to choose sides. One parent's version of events may contradict the other's, leaving the child as the reluctant keeper of conflicting truths.
So not just loyalty that splits, it's identity. Who am I in this house?
Who am I in the other? This stage leaves a lasting imprint. Studies in child development show that children of divorce often carry higher levels of anxiety, guilt, and self-blame into adolescence. Their brains, wired for connection, interpret separation as rejection. What adults call adjustment, the child experiences as loss. And that loss quietly shapes the blueprint of every relationship that follows. As time passes, the shock fades, but the residue remains. The child begins to adapt, but adaptation is not the same as healing. What psychologists often call the long shadow begins to form, where the emotional consequences of divorce extend far into adulthood. The first and most visible effect is chronic anxiety. Living between two homes means living between two realities. One parent may allow freedom, the other imposes rules. The child learns to read moods, anticipate reactions, and adjust behaviors accordingly. Over time, this constant alertness becomes habit. The brain stays on guard, scanning for signs of conflict. Even in adulthood, peace feels temporary, like silence before a storm. Identity also becomes fragmented. Many children of divorce report feeling like two different people, one for each parent. They learn to code switch emotionally, altering tone, attitude, or even beliefs depending on whose house they're in. While it helps them survive family tension, it can later cause an identity crisis. They struggle to answer the question, "Who am I when no one's watching?" Relationships too become complicated. The child grows into an adult who wants closeness but fears loss. Some become overly independent, convinced that relying on others leads to pain. Others become clingy, terrified that love will vanish if they're not perfect. Both patterns stem from the same wound, a fractured sense of security. Psychological research supports this. Studies by Amato and Bowlby show that children of divorce often develop avoidant or anxious attachment styles, reflecting deep-seated mistrust. The subconscious message becomes, "Love isn't permanent, so don't fully trust it." Gender plays a role as well. Boys may externalize pain through anger, rebellion, or risk-taking. Girls often internalize it, turning pain inward as self-criticism or people-pleasing. Both are coping mechanisms, learned responses to chaos. Perhaps the most damaging form of emotional inheritance is parental alienation, when one parent subtly poisons the child's perception of the other. This manipulates not only feelings but memory, distorting the child's understanding of love and loyalty. They carry that confusion into adulthood, unsure who to believe or what love truly means. Over time, the long shadow doesn't always fade. It either consumes the person or becomes their motivation to seek clarity, truth, and peace. Adolescence brings rebellion, identity exploration, and self-definition, but for the child of divorce, these stages come with an extra layer of tension. They are already experts in emotional translation, constantly switching between family systems. Now, they must also define themselves in a world that feels inconsistent. The teenage years often bring confrontation. For years, the child absorbed emotions they couldn't express. Now, as hormones amplify every feeling, those buried emotions erupt. Anger, confusion, and resentment surface not just toward the parents, but toward the idea of love itself. They may vow never to marry, never to trust, or never to become like their parents. It's not rebellion, it's defense. As they grow older, this internal split becomes more visible. In romantic relationships, they oscillate between craving intimacy and fearing it. They want stability, but chaos feels familiar. They may overcompensate, becoming perfectionists, caretakers, or hyperachievers to avoid the pain of rejection. Or they may withdraw entirely, convinced that detachment is safer than vulnerability. Education and career paths often reflect this duality. Some become fiercely independent, determined to create the stability they never had. Others struggle with motivation, subconsciously sabotaging success because they equate happiness with loss. The emotional script from childhood, "good things don't last," still runs in the background. Yet amidst the pain, something remarkable happens. Many adult children of divorce develop extraordinary empathy. They understand emotional nuance. They become mediators, artists, psychologists, storytellers, people who read emotion like second nature. Their wounds become windows into the human condition. Still, healing requires awareness. Without it, the cycle can repeat. A child who witnessed emotional disconnection may unconsciously recreate it in their own relationships. They may choose partners who mirror one parent's flaws or abandon relationships before they can fail. Until the pain is faced, it echoes through generations. Healing begins when understanding replaces silence. Divorce is not destiny, and pain is not permanent. What defines the future of a child is not the separation itself, but how love continues after it. The first step is reframing the narrative. The child must learn that divorce was not their fault, and that love, though imperfect, still exists. Parents play a crucial role here. When they maintain communication, consistency, and kindness, they rebuild trust. When they weaponize guilt or anger, they deepen the wound. Therapy often becomes a mirror, a safe place where the child, now grown, can face the emotions they buried long ago. Through guided work, they begin to understand how fear of abandonment shaped their choices, how suppressed anger became anxiety, and how forgiveness of both parents and self opens the door to peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means recognizing that both parents are human, flawed yet loving, broken yet trying. This perspective transforms resentment into compassion and turns pain into wisdom. Self-healing also requires honesty. Journaling, emotional check-ins, and self-reflection allow old wounds to surface safely. Each recognition becomes a step toward integration, the process of accepting all parts of oneself, even those shaped by conflict. In this stage, the child learns that strength isn't pretending to be unaffected. True strength is feeling the pain, understanding it, and choosing not to pass it forward. They stop inheriting silence and begin teaching openness. They stop seeking perfection and start valuing authenticity. The heart, once split between two homes, learns to become its own home. The cracks remain, but through them light enters. The child who once stood between two worlds now stands whole within themselves. Every adult who once lived through their parents' divorce still carries that younger self inside, the one who just wanted peace. They may wear confidence now, build careers, raise families, but somewhere within, that child still whispers, "Please, just don't leave." The psychology of a divorced parent's child is not a story of brokenness. It's a story of endurance, adaptation, and rediscovery. It's about how the human spirit learns to love again after love has been redefined. Whether we grew up in a divided home or not, we all know the ache of something once whole becoming fractured. We all build walls, wear masks, and carry old fears. But what separates pain from power is awareness. When we understand the wounds we carry, we stop letting them define us. In the end, divorce does not destroy love, it changes its form. The child learns over time that family is not measured by perfection, but by persistence. That love, though shaken, can still rebuild. That trust, though cracked, can still grow back stronger. So, to every child who has stood in that doorway watching two people walk away, know this: you are not the space between them. You are the bridge that can carry love forward. Because in the quiet evolution of pain into understanding
lies the most powerful truth of all: broken things.
When healed with honesty, do not return to what they were.
They become something stronger,
Something whole,